Let me call you sweetheart. I'm in love with you.
Welcome to the B-List,
where we talk about everything we love to hate.
and everything that we hate to love.
I'm Tara.
I'm Courtney, and today I really feel like I'm kind of almost phoning it in.
I mean, yeah, with as much as we love true crime, and like I remember when I was in high school, like you have like your senior whatever thesis project, whatever it is at the end of the year. Mine was on cults. Like,
oh yeah, yeah.
You could pick. I had the coolest English teacher where she was like, you can pick whatever you want, and so yeah, some people did musicians, or some people did books, or things that they love, and I'm like, cults, please.
Right. Well, we grew up also like growing up in the aftermath of like Jonestown and everything like that we're discussing
like
today.
60s, 70s, 80s was like very like culty times.
Well, in the 70s too, we had our serial killers that everybody was so afraid of growing up, and everything, and cults kind of just goes hand in hand with the serial killing.
It really does. Yeah.
But yeah, today we're going to talk about a couple of these cults. I really tried to kind of find some that are a little bit more obscure, but everybody has a fascination with cults. So if you know these, sing along with us.
I mean, it's really like, and I always say that like I would never be a part of a cult. I would be like the worst cult member ever because I always want to know why.
Right.
But I mean,
always questioning things.
But I can kind of see the draw to it because you don't have to think for yourself. Like,
yeah,
you're not steering the car anymore. Someone else is doing it for you, and
it's always
making all these promises.
yeah, and a lot of times they focus on people who don't have relationships with their families, that don't have, they don't have friendship circles or anything like that.
Fit in really well,
and so they start, seducing them and bringing in the promise of family and friends. And,
right, like I see the communal living doesn't sound bad.
No, it really doesn't. I mean, how many times have we talked about, buying a piece of land and then putting mini houses and
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, cults. Let's get started on this one today.
Yeah, you want to get started?
Sure, I'll go first this time. I'm going to talk first about one that I actually learned about here staying at home during the pandemic. That I come across an old Vice documentary about this guy. He's a Russian man out in Siberia named Sergei Torop, I think is how you pronounce his name, but he calls himself Vissarion, and he's of course the reincarnated Jesus Christ himself.
Like, they all have stage names. None of them go by their real names.
Right. Yeah. There's I talk about another one here in a little bit, and he started the Church of the Last Testament. And he's alive. He's 61 years old, and he's currently in prison, and we'll get into that. He was reborn as Vissarion,
okay,
meaning he who gives new life, claiming to be returned Jesus Christ, but it doesn't make him God. It just makes him the Word of God, whatever that means.
Okay, so he's like a vessel, like
a prophet, whatever. Prophet with he actually has a biological mom on Earth, obviously, but he claims that the Virgin Mary is still his mother and all that kind of stuff. Anyway,
all right.
So yeah, he rebranded himself when he lost his job as a traffic cop in 1990. So, lose your job, start a cult. It's the natural rebranding, natural progression of things. It's still going on today.
It's like it was either that or become a realtor, like
right.
That seems to be like all people who want to start their second
I know
career
so many
realtors
during this pandemic.
Nothing against realtors.
No.
My 18-year-old son wants to do that, but like it's like that's usually their go-to.
Right, yeah. Well,
or a cult leader.
Which is where I'm leaning toward myself. Yeah. I think I could do this.
Yeah.
But yeah, this guy, Vissarion, he looks like Jesus. He's made himself. He's got the long, straight hair, the beard, the piercing blue eyes. I mean, just like white Jesus.
I'm not thinking like Jesus. I'm thinking Rasputin.
Well, yeah, and they
which was his own culty thing.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that this guy has even been compared to Rasputin too.
Which is very charismatic. Everyone wants to be around them.
Sex machine, that kind of thing. There's an estimated 10,000 followers to this day, but it could be as high as 50,000 followers worldwide.
Okay, I see you.
So, yeah, he started the church back in 1991, shortly after the Soviet Union dissolved.
Mhm.
And of course, any world event like that, they like to latch on and say, oh, it's the beginning of the end, right? Apocalyptic cult. And so he started combining Russian Orthodox church beliefs
Mhm.
and Buddhism and Hinduism, and all of them just kind of crammed into one little religion.
Okay.
He ended up writing 18 volumes of what he calls the Last Testament, which is another section of the Bible, he says.
Okay.
And he has, of course, has his followers following like a strict, no drugs, no alcohol, you're only vegan, no smoking, no swearing, you can't use money because
That's the thing, is that most of these cults, if you look at it, they take everything away from everyone because you strip people down to nothing, and all they have is you. It's a lot easier for them to manipulate them.
Well, yeah, and you isolate them away from family and friends.
Yeah, I listened to a podcast about Nexium, and it was a lot like that.
Yeah,
it's like,
Nexium.
Wake you up at 2 a.m. for these like therapy sessions.
Keep you tired.
Like 4 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, and so
no one can have sex, only with the cult leader.
Only with the cult leader. Yeah. So and this is one of those that starts a commune, of course, and his followers, they moved to this little commune up in Siberia, and like even to this day, even though, and I'll get to this in a second, even though he's been imprisoned, there's still like between 2,000 and 4,000 people living near this commune. He built up quite a thing. He called his commune the City of the Sun. And I don't know, did I mention it's Church of the Last Testament because, he wrote the Last Testament.
Right.
Let's see. He replaced Christmas and canceled it and then rescheduled it on his own birthday in January 14th, I think it is. And he requires his followers, like, we don't start at BC and AD, like,
oh, so he restarted time.
He restarted time where they count like year one, the year after he was born in 1961. So they've been counting years since 1961.
Wow,
this guy,
so
it's
their existence is fairly new then.
Right, right. Yeah. We're all brand new.
Yes.
Yeah, of course, he was one of those that drained his followers financially. Give me all your money so we can start this commune. Any money you make is ours, is mine. You're not allowed to use money, but I'm allowed to live on this 3-story chateau up the hill.
See, that's the
kind of thing.
Bad cult member because I like my money. You're not getting my money. No.
Yeah, exactly.
If there's a free cult where I can do what I want, yes, I'll sign up for that one. But
now his apocalyptic predictions is that it goes back to like the Sumerian and Mesopotamian mythology and theology. Old school, where the planet Nibiru, that's where the gods are from, and Nibiru is on a collision course with Earth, and it's going to happen on this date. Yeah.
Nibirus.
Yeah. And of course, whenever that planet collides with our planet, there's going to be another flood, and it's going to be up to his church to repopulate the Earth.
Yeah, of course.
And of course, there's enough of them to maybe do that. His hardcore followers actually believe that he is still. He is Christ in the flesh. And membership tripled into his church at the beginning of the pandemic because everybody's seeing signs of the end again.
You know what would be like super fun is if they like got all these cult leaders together in a room and just let them like duke it out. And figure out who's the real Messiah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm looking at my notes and I wrote down here, oh yeah, and the weird sex stuff.
Of course.
Now, he has this whole wife swapping bit, encouraging any man in his congregation to take on as many wives as he wants. Yes. And then you can swap and you can do whatever you want to, but everyone's required to sleep with him as well.
That's like very like Church of Latter-day Saints, like kind of getting into some Mormonism, like
right, yeah. Which I could go into the cult behaviors of the Mormon and Jehovah's Witness churches. Scientology. And a lot of these cults mirror exactly what you see in these bigger religions.
It's
but he you know, every time the day of the apocalypse was supposed to happen, he would move the goalposts and people still stuck with him anyway. Oh, he read the prophecy wrong.
That's
Oh,
right. Yes, like if he keeps reading the prophecy wrong and changing everything, like how do you know what he's saying?
Yeah.
Makes any goddamn sense. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. And he also says that he has the ability to like heal cancer and AIDS with his hands like Christ himself.
then why wouldn't he?
But here's the thing about it, though. Okay, we're going to get into his arrest right now because he wouldn't allow his congregation or his commune to seek medical help.
They
medical
do that
treatment.
in so many cults.
Yeah, and there were children living in this commune. And so, because now he was allowed to get medical treatment, he often flew to Taiwan and like Brazil and all these other places to get his medical treatment, but they weren't allowed to.
That happens a lot.
And then so, yeah. And then so kids started dying of like treatable diseases and adults too. But it was the death of these children that caused the Russian officials to start investigating him. And, you know, before his arrest, he would have all these meetings that they would ask him questions regarding the marriages and the open marriages and the love triangles and stuff. And then they would also ask stuff like what laundry detergent they should use, which laundry detergent is the godliest.
Nothing, just beat your clothes against a rock.
Yeah,
Hope
yeah,
for the
yeah.
best.
So, but yeah, he denied medical intervention for any of his followers, saying that you know thyself. From now on, the flesh must heal itself.
You know, there's a cult that I read about. Who was it? I think Sinisterhood covered them. I think it's like the yoga cult or some kind of like. It was like an East Indian cult.
Yeah.
And like I think the guy ended up dying of sepsis. The leader like broke his leg or something.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, I can't get medical treatment, and like he's like, this is how I die.
Yeah.
Like, no, go get it.
Just go to the doctor.
It's a broken leg, which is very easily
Yeah.
treatable.
Yeah. And of course, they lived on this commune too with they had no electricity. They did have some forms of renewable energy like solar power and stuff like that for small things. But in later years, he would allow small tech like cell phones and the like. But he just made his congregation so financially dependent on him that they couldn't leave. And if you questioned, then you were like excommunicated from
Right,
the
and then you
cult.
really have nothing.
And
because...
so, yeah. So these people that were being kicked out of the church, they went to the authorities and was like, hey, people are dying in this cult, because it wasn't just medical intervention. Like there were suicides and questionable deaths and all that kind of stuff. So one of the members was able to like sneak out suicide notes and show the authorities like, these are the people that are dying.
Yeah.
And this is he's abusing us to a point that we can't leave. We can't do anything without him. So it gets out that this dude is abusing his commune, and it was on September 2020 that there was finally a raid by Russian officials where they sent in a few dozen troops and a couple of helicopters, and they arrest him. And he's still in jail now, awaiting his trial and all that. I tried to find if there was any sort of update, and I think he's had a hearing or two, but there's not a whole lot. But he's accused of running an illegal organization, religious organization, physical harm to others, and extortion because of the money aspect on it. And if you're watching our YouTube video, I'm going to make sure to put lots of pictures and visual aids in here so that you can see exactly who we're talking about, because this guy, I mean, he looks like the classical representation
like
of
what
Christ.
you would think of like a cult leader.
And that he wears the robes and he walks around slowly gesturing to things all the time. He's just,
that's a hard pass for me.
it's just just so narcissistic and damaging, and these people really believe that he's Christ in the flesh,
and he's just not.
And
guys.
he's not.
He's just not, guys. I'm gonna put it out there.
He kills kids.
I'm putting it. He's just not, you guys.
He's just not. But yeah, so far I wouldn't call it, even though there were suicides, I wouldn't call them a suicide cult, because he's never asked for any sort of sacrifice.
He's in jail,
like that.
because there's so many of these guys that get away with it, because it's like, you're grown adults, you can do what you want. Like if you want to, like,
well, yeah, and there's members of the commune that are still like, oh, he's going to return, he'll get out. This is just like Christ, you know, where he's persecuted for sins he didn't commit. And because they're still there, they were split. There's the ones that were like, this guy is
there's always the stragglers who are like, no, but he's really it, you guys. Like,
yeah,
this is
no,
really,
yeah, the ones that
the
really
diehard,
hold on.
like, yeah,
yeah,
it's
there's
like an abusive relationship, you know. Like,
that's all it is. That's why he's in
all
jail.
it
It's
is.
just abuse of these people.
That's so sad.
And you know, they're not allowed to eat like outside food outside of the commune. So whenever they eat, they have to eat only what they grow. And they're in Siberia, so
if I can't get tacos and margs, do not sign me up.
Right.
I don't want to be a part of it.
you're not even allowed to have the alcohol.
Nope.
That's the
Nope.
Nope.
Hard pass.
Hard pass.
Mhm.
So yeah, but you know,
I don't eat food I cooked myself. Are you kidding me? Like some kind of idiot? No,
right?
thanks.
No. Where's my Uber Eats?
Absolutely
Where's my
not.
DoorDash?
Yes.
So yeah, that's my first one for today.
All right. Well, it's
But-
so funny that yours was from Russia because my first one, I tried to. I got two heavy hitters and then one that's a little more obscure. I really wanted to do more obscure ones, but the two that I picked, I just really have like deep in my soul. I just really need to cover them.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna start with the smaller guys. These are the Freedomites.
Freedomites. That almost sounds like a comic book.
Freedomites.
Like,
It does. It
like
sounds
the Justice League.
like some cheap knockoff, a great value brand. So they were formed in Saskatchewan in 1902 after leaving several different religious groups in Russia. They were like, kind of like, they took a pilgrimage to Saskatchewan because they were being persecuted and they wanted to have their freedom of religion. So they decided to come to Saskatchewan in 1902. So it's like a pretty long running cult because they're still around.
Uh-huh.
And this is 1902. And they insisted on three things: communal living, nudity, and anarchy. I'm like, sounds fun. Sign me up.
Yeah, right.
Sounds like a good time. And they became famous in their area for all nude public demonstrations to show opposition of material tendencies of society, which, like, I'm not materialistic either, but I'll be damned if I have to go out in the nude to protest it. No, thank you.
Well, it gets attention.
It does get attention. In the 1920s and 30s, they even burned and bombed a bunch of public buildings while naked, which that sounds dangerous.
That is dangerous. You don't cook bacon naked
or burn buildings down.
Work with dynamite.
Yes, I'm just like, must have smelled like burnt hair
Oh,
all the time. But yeah, it was to show their disdain for the government. They're burning down public buildings and everything like that. And I read that in, like, much later on, the government was worried about the children. They're always worried about the children, you know? Like, if you're an adult and you want to do something stupid, that's on you. But, like, when you get kids involved, so they had, like, this, like, special project. They were going to, like, go and infiltrate, take the kids, make sure, because they'd heard all this, like, that they're being harmed and they're being mistreated. They were going to go through and...
That's where it always starts. That's always the start of the
Right.
downfall.
And the name of this, like, secret project was called Snatch, which I feel like they could have renamed.
There's so
You're
many.
talking about a nude cult. Maybe don't call it Project Snatch, but that's what they called it.
Well,
So they snatched the kids, which is what I assume is why it was called that. But they couldn't really prove that they were being mistreated or whatever. And years later, like, this was probably like the 70s. I think it was like around the 70s when they, like, did this, took the kids. Couldn't prove it, had to give the kids back. And in the early aughts, this cult tried to sue the Canadian government for, like, hey, remember that time when you snatched our kids? And the government was pretty much like, well, we're not responsible for what happened like 4 years ago. So sorry about you, but we can't help you. But yeah, from what I read, they're still around and still kicking.
they're still doing it, huh?
Yeah. I tried to look for a specific cult leader and I couldn't find the name of one. It's just like a group of people who just decided this is what they're going to do.
Well, they're anarchists, so there's no
leader.
There's no leader. You
They're
just
just,
have a
like,
bunch of guys.
Naked and bombing places.
Yeah. Sitting around thinking of bad ideas.
Yeah, thinking of bad ideas. So that's my first one. It's real short and sweet.
Well, I know that this is a really good basis for a lot of these cults is the UFO cults. And this also was another religion that I stumbled upon during the pandemic whenever I was, surfing through YouTube and
Find
all of
yourself
those.
reading all kinds of weird stuff and you're not allowed to leave your house. you know?
Right. And so this guy, His name is Claude Vorelhan, I guess is how you pronounce it. They're all of these guys I picked out have been foreign to the U.S. So they
Oh wow.
now he rebranded himself under
Uh-huh.
the name Rael, Rael or Rael. And I've watched he's got videos on YouTube, so look him up.
After you watch this video.
Yeah, because I watched a couple of them and they were a little crazy for even me. Um, on the outside, this one kind of seems to be a little bit less harmful religious cult. It's like I said, it's a UFO cult, and it kind of blends that ancient alien theory, like
Mm-hmm.
the aliens were actually the gods
Okay.
and they helped us build civilization,
Yeah.
and but he blends them again with the Judeo-Christian teachings.
Like I'm not against like extraterrestrials or that there might be life on other planets, but I
Mhm.
just don't think that they care enough to start cults here. I just don't like. Don't they have better things to do?
I would think so. I would think it would be like more. I don't know. Maybe visiting here would be a missionary thing.
I
I
just
don't
like to think
know.
they're all superior and they just don't have time for our shit. Like they're
Yeah,
just like, no, like
they've got
stop
other
following
stuff.
me. Stop
Right,
following me.
right,
You can't sit with us. Go away.
right, right. Well, in the 70s in France, there had been an uptick in UFO sightings, and the ancient alien theory had been introduced, so it was gaining popularity.
Hmm.
And so Claude here, or Rael, claims that in
That sounds so
73,
sassy. It
I
sounds like a
know,
drag name.
Rael or
Rael
Rael.
on the main stage, you know?
Yeah. And he says in 73, he was out and about when he was contacted by the biblical Elohim, which, in the Bible, that was supposed to be all the angels and all of the other
Okay.
entities that God had created. But these were actually space aliens that were mistaken for God and his angels.
Okay.
And he starts promoting his ideas through the local media and everything. And it starts gaining popularity. Basically, he says that the Elohim take him to their planet,
Mm-hmm.
and he learns that Yahweh, the Hebrew God, is
Uh-huh.
his biological father. And
Very
his,
Star Wars.
yeah, and
Very
Jesus Christ, he's not Jesus Christ, but Jesus Christ is his half brother.
Oh, sweet.
So,
I love a good blended family.
right, right, right. And Jesus actually wasn't resurrected through magic. He was resurrected through a clone that the Elohim, ancient aliens, had
Yeah.
engineered for his soul to reside in. So it was a new body and everything that was cloned by aliens.
Jesus 2.0.
And that's the secret to eternal life in a physical form, is cloning.
Cloning.
So,
I mean, we've been trying it for years, trying
well,
to.
you'll remember these guys once I mention it. And, again, because the soul is eternal,
Mm-hmm.
cloning is the secret to physical immortality.
Okay.
And it's on this planet that they give him the name Rael. And so now his rebranding starts. So in 1976, he starts up this religion,
Okay.
and the members of the movement are take on missionary roles and recruit people over the next 20 years or so. And in 1997, you'll remember this. He starts Clonaid. Do you remember that name? It
Sounds
was
familiar.
it was an organization dedicated to the advancement of cloning technology, and he announces shortly after that they successfully cloned a living being, which was Dolly the sheep.
I remember Dolly the
Yeah,
sheep.
yeah, Dolly the sheep. So these guys were behind it, allegedly. Um,
See, use your powers for good.
right, right. And they even had a meeting at the time when it happened with Bill Clinton, President
Yeah, I
Bill Clinton at the
remember.
time,
I remember.
to discuss, all these advancements in cloning. And it wasn't long after that they claimed that they had cloned a human baby that they had named Eve.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
but that came under a whole lot of scrutiny because they never made it available to the scientific community. Not that I'm saying that a baby needs to be poked and prodded in the scientific community, but there was no
Like proof.
proof, there was no research shared, there was no, it
Right.
was just
They
like,
just
no,
said
just you
it.
got to believe me. We cloned a baby.
Mm.
And so
But where's that baby now, though? Like
yeah, I couldn't find anything on that. I guess this
what's
was
what's her Twitter handle or whatever?
right,
Is
right.
she on the Snapchat?
Yeah, right, right. She's got her OnlyFans out there.
It's like her and like several of her siblings. They're all cloned together.
So, in order to join this community, you had to be baptized to
Okay.
join his community. And what that meant was you met with a spiritual leader or a spiritual guide within the church
Okay.
who baptizes you by laying hands on you and then sending telepathically your cellular your cellular code to the Elohim. And once you're in, you're gold. They got your code. So
It's like when you forget your password on Facebook and they're like send you a code on your phone so you can get back in.
forgot my cellular code. But
They're like, is the last 4 digits of your phone number still blah blah blah? And you're like, yeah. They're like, okay, I'm sending it to you now.
And so, of course, you've got to financially support them because they save your
Of
DNA
course.
and everything,
And
so
if
that
you're
way you can
going
be cloned.
cloning, I mean, I'm assuming that's very expensive.
Oh, well, yeah, it's got to be. They've only cloned one baby, so
Only one baby and a sheep.
and a sheep.
And a bunch of ears off the backs of rats.
Now, the tenets of the religion are
Yeah.
pretty lenient as far as cults go.
Okay.
Drugs are kind of a no-no, but tobacco and alcohol are okay in moderation.
Okay.
Respect everyone's culture. You're free to do pretty much whatever you want, whenever you want, as long as it doesn't hurt another
I like that.
and it doesn't impede the progression of science.
I like that too.
So, yeah, I like that too.
Am I a member of this cult now?
Yeah, and then I said in my notes, sex stuff? Hell yeah.
Okay. All right.
They believe that a suppression of sexual desire leads to violence.
Yes. Agreed.
So, just do it all the time with everybody.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I'm a little bit more cautious when it comes to that, especially since I've been married and been with one person for 20 years. But they don't believe in marriage though, because it's too restrictive. You can't express yourself sexually if you're tied to one person. So I can get that. It's not like a hey, cheat on your spouse kind of thing. It's like, hey, just don't get married and you'll have fun.
On today's episode of B-List, Tara joins a cult.
Yeah, exactly. Prostitution, 2 thumbs up. It's
Again,
a way.
Yes.
It's a way for others to be able to express
Legalized
themselves.
sex work.
This is legalized sex work. If you're gay, be gay.
Yes.
If you're not, that's cool. But they suggest you try it.
Same.
Same.
Don't knock it till you try it.
And here's another thing. Every sexual act must be 100% consensual.
Yeah, I'm a part of this cult
I
now.
know. Forced acts are forbidden.
Yes.
That's forbidden. Nothing, as well as pedophilia. Everyone must be an adult. Everyone must be 100% consensual. So if you want to have that orgy, as long as everybody's 18 plus,
Everyone's agreeing
they
to
said,
it.
all right, let's do this, then
Okay.
it's okay.
This is a refreshing cult.
Yeah, I know.
I'm very-
That's why I was like, this is kind of one of those that doesn't seem as threatening.
It doesn't seem as bad, honestly. You're not trying to kill people or...
He even has a group of girls that he calls the Order of Angels, who are women who are sexually trained to be the concubines
okay.
of the Elohim whenever they return. Because, of course, in every religion, they're going to return.
Okay.
But here's the thing. When will they return? Anytime, of course.
I mean, that's how you get it. That's how you snag it. Is because
Right.
you just leave it open.
Right. And in this religion, Christ will return with the UFOs.
And all he wants is a bunch of concubines?
And all he wants, I guess, is a bunch
My
of
Jesus likes to party.
specially trained concubines at this point. And I'm sure that the leader has been the one to train them.
Of course.
But
Okay, you
here's...
lost me. Never mind.
Yeah. Now, he came back into the news a few years ago, back in 2015, because he was told in a vision that he must build an embassy in Jerusalem with the facilities capable of accepting the UFO, like landing pads and all that kind of stuff, refueling stations for UFOs. I don't know what kind of fuel they use.
I was going to say, how do you know what kind of fuel they use?
They use those little crackers that you eat in church with grape juice or wine. It's the blood and flesh of Christ.
Is it plutonium?
Plutonium, yes. Doc Brown is with him.
Doc Brown. Christopher Lloyd's like putting on that jumpsuit. Like, damn it,
Marty!
I thought I was done. Great Scott.
They're going faster than 88 miles. But yeah, so he prepositioned or approached the White House back in 2015 to help build this embassy in Jerusalem. And of course, everybody knows that Jerusalem is always in a warlike state because of the Palestinians
It's rough
and
there,
the state of
yeah.
Israel. And so, and both of them are laying claim to it. So I don't know how they're going to come in and build an embassy or a temple.
They have enough religious issues over there.
And I think
without adding this crazy UFO clone cult.
Right. Well, Dolly the sheep is real cute. Once you meet her, she's
Is she the leader? That'd be
she's
so
the
awesome.
leader. But of course, we're like, we're not helping you build this. You're on your own.
Mm-mm.
So he did some fundraising things, I believe,
It's got
and
like a GoFundMe.
he said that he had to have this temple built in Jerusalem by the projected return date of 2025, and of course we're coming up on that date. So now he's pushed back, and it's like, oh wait,
Close.
I was wrong. Now they're going to be here in 2035. I read the prophecy wrong.
Sorry, let me
And
just
so
like
moving
wiping
the
it
book.
off.
Mhm.
Okay, that's what it says.
But now this guy, he's still walking among us. He still has his followers. There's an estimated 90,000 followers worldwide, and they think that there may be more.
I mean, of all the cults that I have read about, seen about, watched TV
Mhm.
and stuff about, like this one doesn't seem that bad.
It's not
It doesn't
that
seem
bad. It's not that bad at all.
I
It's
don't want to be anybody's concubine.
I mean,
but-
whenever it's consensual. So as long as it's consensual,
and they want to.
I don't know. I can get down with some aliens.
All right.
I don't know.
I'm not saying no.
I'm saying I'm open.
I'm saying I'm open to it. Send me one of your newsletters.
Right.
I'll take a gander at it.
I mean, how do these aliens actually look? Are they like Superman?
Like, are they human-esque?
or
Are they
Thor?
like, or are we talking more like E.T.?
Are we talking E.T. or?
Because I'll tell you what, I don't want to fuck E.T. I'm gonna put that out there.
Well, I don't know. I'd have a couple of drinks with E.T. See how the night goes.
Big hands.
Big hands, big heart.
Big heart. What else glows? I don't know.
He's got those fingers
The tip glows.
with tip glows.
Ouch.
Ouch. I'll be right
I've
here.
been right here. No,
But
no.
and to this day, his embassy has not gotten started. They do have a temple in Japan somewhere. I forgot to write down the city, but yeah, they've got their followers. They got a temple somewhere, but I don't think that it has the little
Landing
plug-in
pads.
chargers or anything like
Right.
that. No landing pads, but to this day, they still practice their little religion.
I mean,
I don't know if that really would fall under cult, but I don't know. In my mind, though, all religion is cultish. So, what are you gonna do?
I mean, yeah, we definitely sway one way on this
Mhm.
podcast. All right. Well, I mean, rolling with the alien beliefs and the UFOs and everything. My next cult is Heaven's Gate.
Mm-hmm.
Which was Marshall Applewhite and Bonnie Nettles. Everyone always forgets about Bonnie Nettles
Mm-hmm.
because he was the last man standing at the end. So like
Mhm.
everyone assumes that it was just him.
Well, he
but
was
it's-
also the face of it too.
he was the face of it. Yeah,
We saw his
because
videos and
I don't know
everything.
if you saw her face, but
Yeah.
she had a face for podcasting.
Right.
So, a little background on Marshall Applewhite. He was the closeted gay son of a Presbyterian minister.
Mhm.
And she was a 44-year-old married nurse with children. And in March 1970, they met by chance. I mean, there's a lot of different, like, how did they meet cute type things on how they met. But the general consensus is they met at a hospital. And they had this kind of like Wonder Twin connection that happens once in a lifetime. And she convinced him that he had a divine assignment. Like, you are,
Mhm.
like, there's something about you, you know? And who's not going to want to believe that, you know?
Mhm.
And their main belief was that there were two witnesses described in the book of Revelations. And they believed that they would be killed and restored to life and transported by a UFO.
Mhm.
Like, she was really into like really into the Bible and very into science fiction. And she kind of like, and he was kind of like this poor lost gay little puppy who didn't know, like, he had been married before and it didn't work out, and he kind of came out to his dad and his parents and told him, like, I believe that I am a homosexual, and they
Mhm.
kind of just, you know, like, wrote him off. And like, no, so it's one of those situations
Mhm.
where even though he became the leader, he was kind of like her follower and kind of, you know, like, he was just looking for somewhere to belong. And she was the first person who was like, no, there's something about you, you
Mhm.
know? And we've
And
all
that's
been
how
there.
that's how a lot of these cults. I mean, the ones that I've
They
already
tell you you're
talked
special. They
about,
tell you that you're different. If there's something, you know,
because everybody wants to know that they are special. and
everyone
different.
wants to know that they're a part of something, you know?
That's why it's so important to validate our friends and family,
Yes.
to let them know how
in a
special they
positive
are in a
way.
positive way.
Like, tell everyone you love them type thing. So yeah, Applewhite and Nettles use several aliases,
Uh-huh.
and they're all stupid, if you ask me. Like Bo and Peep. And they finally
Okay.
settled on T and Doe.
T and do, like the progression of
Yes,
the
they were super into the sound of music.
Sound of Music. Okay.
In 1976, the group became very reclusive. They banned all use of drugs, alcohol, sexual activity, including masturbation. You couldn't even touch yourself. They didn't want you to.
Yeah.
You got in really big trouble if you did that. You had to like confess it. And...
Are they just watching you all the time? Like, up. Don't touch it. Don't touch it.
And, you know, it got to where all the members, like, they all had the same haircut. They all dressed the same. They all
I remember that.
Hideous haircuts, if you ask me. Not a great looking haircut.
No. So androgynous, and just everybody had to look the same.
Everyone had to look the same because they figured if everyone looked the same, they would kind of take away that sexuality and those urges, like to try and keep you on the straight and narrow. And fast forward to 1985, at the age of 57, Bonnie Nettles died of liver cancer. And this completely uprooted all their belief system, because their belief system was that your body, your entire entity would be like, after you died, all of you would go up.
Zapped up, yeah.
Zapped up. Your body would not be on Earth anymore. And her body was still here. And it did not board a spaceship, and it did not go to heaven. And so, of course, the beliefs changed. And it's like, well, what actually happens is we have to die here. And then your soul will go.
Yeah. They'd move the goalposts when something happens.
They moved the goalposts. They changed what they do. And so by 1996, the group rented a very large home. I think it says it was 9,200 square feet.
Oh, that's a pretty,
and
pretty big.
And they called it the Monastery, and it was in Rancho Santa Fe, California. And it's crazy because, like, the members of this cult, this religion, this belief system, they're, of course, the ones that foot the bill for everything. And they had I just watched a special on it. They're like 2020 or something did a special on it recently that I watched. And it was like engineers, like computer people, like some of them, one guy had inherited a bunch of money. He was like a, fancy,
educated,
intelligent people who I feel like just didn't have the social skills to like form attachments.
And that's where it comes in. But you're special, and you're only special. I love you, and only
So March 19th and 20th of 1997. Applewhite started taping what he called the final exits, which is video. There's recordings of people saying goodbye to their loved ones. And because, some of these people had not seen their families in years. And so they just wanted to let them know that, like, this is what I want and this is what has to happen, because he basically said, we all have to die in order to go to heaven. We all have to commit suicide. Like, it's the only option. It's the only way that we can evacuate this earth to get where we need to go. So 38 members and Applewhite himself prepared ritual suicide so that their souls could board to the spacecraft. They took a mix of applesauce or pudding with phenobarbital. And I would not want that to be my last meal. No, just a bunch of pudding.
Just pudding? You couldn't hide that in a ribeye?
Couldn't hide that in
a baked potato?
Good tacos and some, some guac, something. They washed it down with vodka, which is funny because they couldn't have alcohol. But now the last day, they're like,
let's party it out.
Pudding and vodka for everybody.
You get pudding and vodka.
And they secured plastic bags around their heads. They were all dressed in the same black sweatpants and black t-shirts. And they had the sweatshirts that they had on, or like the hoodies or whatever. They had patches made that said Heaven's Gate.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure cost a pretty penny, but whatever.
Well, Team Spirit.
They all had matching Nike sneakers on. They were brand new.
Yeah. What a waste.
Got to keep your kicks nice, you know? Yeah. And they all had $5.75 in their pockets to pay the toll to get into
American money, too. That's
money.
What they accept on the spaceship.
And all it cost $5.
That's not bad. I don't think you can even take a bus ride for that anymore.
No. And yeah, so they all died, and then there was an anonymous caller that called and said, hey, I just want you to know that, like, something happened in this house. And so the police came, and they're like, what has happened? Like, some of the neighbors in their neighborhood didn't even know that there was a cult that lived there, because they moved in the shadows in the night, and, like, so they didn't even know what was happening.
And everybody looked the same, so you just thought it was the coming and goings of your neighbor.
Bob looks like Stephanie, who looks like George, who looks like they all look the same.
Yeah.
And it's funny, like, it's not funny. It's horrible. But after that happened, when word spread that like the Heaven's Gate cult, this is what happened, everyone died. Past members who had already left, they committed suicide in a similar fashion because they're like, oh,
I remember
well,
hearing
guess.
about that too, because it happened like right when I was getting out of high school, or
Yeah, because it was 97.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I remember seeing videos of the dude before they did this, because they were gaining predominance, and they were
Yes.
talking about how they were trying to get people out of this cult. And I think I remember seeing a news special like of them talking about this cult, and it was before the suicide pact or whatever.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I remember seeing him in the news for a while.
I would not be a part of any cult who told me I could not have my friends and family. That would not be something I would
Well,
want.
nobody can tell me how to cut my hair either.
Absolutely not. Over my dead body will I have a chili bowl again.
Right,
Over
well-
my dead body.
Well, take your pudding.
And you take your pudding and put a bag on your head. No, thank you. And
Yeah.
I'm not laughing at the poor members of this cult. Like, they had talked about it being like a mass suicide, and then police started to get more knowledge of what was happening and what he was doing. And then they kind of changed how they spoke about it to say that it was 38 murders and 1 suicide. Like,
Yeah.
like one of the police officers that I saw that was like, he had been on the scene and everything like that. He's like, we tended to think that it was not like, they were all brainwashed. They were all like,
Well, yeah.
you know, they're starved and not treated well, and you know, all this kind
The
of stuff.
psychological damage at that
The
point
psychological
is
was so bad that like
they died.
They considered it murder. They
Yeah.
did not consider it.
No, I
it was
totally
a mass
agree with
murder,
that. Yeah.
You know.
It's that way with all of these suicide cults.
Yeah.
It's not, they're not will. And you also question those last moments too, is how willing were these people?
I mean, there were, if you see some of the videos of like, because you can find them like on different specials, documentaries, and things like that. Like, some of the people are talking about it and they seem okay with their decisions, and some of them are crying and they're not super stoked that this is happening.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I guess at that point you just feel like you've come so far. Like, I've given everything to this, so I guess this is what is gonna have to happen.
It's an abusive relationship.
Exactly.
I can't find anything better, and I can't.
Yeah, it's not as easy
move
as
forward.
just leaving. Yeah, it's just really sad.
Well, yeah, that's like what the Order of the Solar Temple, which was one that I had just. I remember this happening vaguely because it's another one that happened in the 90s.
Yeah.
And it was founded by 2 people, Joseph de Mombro and Luc Jouret, in Geneva in 1984. So it was kind of a younger cult in comparison to some of these that were started, back in the 70s. And they were basically focused on resurrecting the Knights Templar, which of course, is a historical order that, led the Crusades way back when.
Yeah.
And they called themselves the Order of the Solar Temple. And they wanted to establish correct notions of authority and power in the world, just like the Knights Templar did, whenever they went in to wipe out the Islamic nations and convert them to Christianity. But they wanted more emphasis on uniting Islam and Christianity in this particular cult.
Oh, okay.
So,
Which is not a bad thing. Let's all unite. Like,
well, yeah, well,
but I'm never so like, I just know enough to know I don't know everything. So I can never say that I know this for a fact.
right.
When
right.
it comes to religion or God or Jesus or what's happening, I don't know anything.
And they melded a lot of stuff from Christianity, and they borrowed a lot of things from the Freemasons. So there was all kinds of ritualistic, happenings, and the classic culty stuff.
The huge.
But this one, they also believed that you were going to end up in space whenever you die. And the true believers of the religion were taught that their souls would be transported to the star Sirius, which is the brightest star in our sky.
Yeah.
And of course, you had to give them all your money, especially if you wanted to move up in the church, kind of like Scientology.
I was gonna say that sounds very Scientology.
If you wanted to move into a leadership position, you better have the money to do that.
$5,000.
It's going to cost you a lot of money. And so, but yeah, they, like I said, they said that your soul would go to the star. And what started the beginning of the end for this cult was that one of the predominant families, now they had They started in Geneva, but they had locations of their church in Canada and Switzerland and I think Spain and a few satellite places elsewhere.
Okay.
So they were kind of spread out across the world a little
Mhm.
bit. Um, but in Quebec, the Dutoit family, it was a predominant family in the movement. They have a baby, and they name it Emmanuel, which is supposed to be reserved for a prophesied.
I was gonna say that's like,
It was supposed to be reserved for a prophesied God child.
yeah.
And Joseph de Montbreau, who was one of the founders, he didn't like that, as he had already reserved that title for one of his own kids. You know, because only my child will be the godchild. So, in 1994, he had the Dutoit family killed. Even the baby was stabbed multiple times with a wooden stake and killed. And so, once that happened, and I think I think that was in '94. So the religion had been around for about 10 years at this point. So of course that gets the ball rolling, because you're gonna go down for this. You know, there's gonna be,
Absolutely.
it didn't indicate that the leaders of the church was the one that committed it, but they ordered the act to happen.
So did they not believe like thou shalt not kill? I thought that was like a pretty
Well,
standard issue
I guess
belief system.
if you're basing yourself on the Templars, who were, hell bent on domination and killing. So after this death of this family happens, again, they're saying, oh, well, Sirius is going to be close enough to Earth that we can all get on the planet, and we got to do it now.
Yeah.
So, and also the suicides were also pushed forward when one of the leader's sons started questioning things,
Right.
and was going to leave the church. Well, then they fast forwarded their plans and everything. So, they get the ball rolling, and de Montbreau and his 12 of his followers perform a ritual recreating of the Last Supper, in which he plays Christ. And then right after this theater that they've presented, they they get on with the mass suicide, and all of the religious leaders and murders were conducted at 2 cities in Switzerland and 1 city in Quebec, all like coordinated to happen around the same time. 15 inner circle members committed suicide in Switzerland with poison. 15 was with poison. 30 were killed by bullets in the congregation. 8 others were killed by other means that they didn't list. And many of the victims were found in a secret, like, underground chapel that was surrounded with Templar symbolism and everything like that. Their bodies were dressed in ceremonial robes. They were all positioned in a circle, feet together, heads outward. Some had plastic bags tied over their heads. And the ones that had been shot, the 30 had been shot, had all been shot in the head. So somebody did it for them.
Yeah, that's not suicide, that's murder.
That's murder. And there was also evidence that many of the Switzerland victims of this were drugged. So they probably drugged them up, said, hey, I'm going to put this bag over your head, and bang. And so other victims were found in ski chalets nearby. Several dead children were lying together. The tragedy.
Trigger warning, guys.
Yeah, trigger warning.
Should have started the episode.
Right. The tragedy was discovered when officers rushed to the site because fires had started there. Right. And they found that they were started by remote devices after the suicides had happened, because they were going to burn it down afterwards. And so farewell letters were left by the believers, stated that they were believing to escape the hypocrisy and oppression of the world. And then a year or so later, in 1995, 16 more bodies were discovered in France. And it was found out later that 2 of them shot the others and then shot themselves. So it wasn't a poisoning situation or anything like that. Yeah. It was another murder situation. So that adds to the body count. And then another incident happens again in 1997, when 5 members of the Order of the Solar Temple took their own lives again in Quebec. Then a house fire was set, leaving behind 5 charred bodies for the police to pull from the rubble. But their children actually had been spared. They were just drugged and put in the shed behind the house.
Yeah,
and they
because that's
found them
not
alive.
traumatizing.
Right, right. And so, yeah, and this is another one of those that they're still practicing the religion, even though the leaders are gone. They're still practicing this religion worldwide, even though I think it was a total of 74 people in all died in these murders and suicides. And yeah, I can't I can't understand the psyche behind this taking your kids out with you. It's just
I just don't get it. I just don't get it. Okay, so last but certainly not least in the giant bag of shit that we have covered today is the People's Temple, aka Jonestown, aka Jim Jones Fest, 1978. So everyone knows about Jim Jones, but he opened his first church in the 1950s. He was not affiliated with any particular denomination or theological training. He had nothing. He just decided none of these guys are qualified for any of this.
Just their delusions of grandeur.
Yeah. But it started out, I feel like it started out really well-meaning because it was very progressive. Like they wanted to racially integrate. They had members of every race, and like God loves all of his children. Like it was really like I saw some footage of it, like the very beginnings of this, like what turned out to be a cult. Like it was just really nice to see because back in the 50s and the 60s, that was not that was not allowed.
Right.
Like
you're just bouncing out of the civil rights movements,
and so for it to be really integrated, it was a big deal. And like I think it was his oldest son that was adopted. Him and his wife adopted a black child, and like so it was like a big deal, like to have all the races kind of come together. And that was his that was his idea, was to like let's all blend together. And and there's a lot of faith healing and like that kind of that's ridiculous. But by 1972 he had opened a temple in Los Angeles, and he became friends with like politicians, and he was a well-respected church member, like church leader in his in his city. And like so many people are coming to the church, and but even though they seem to be doing all this like extra, like all this amazing work outside the church and helping the community and all that kind of stuff, inside the church members were being regularly beaten and humiliated, coerced, brainwashed to signing over all their possessions, all their money,
basic culty stuff,
cutting off communication with family members, usual cult 101. Members of the minority groups were being told that if they didn't want to stay with the temple, that they were going to be sent to concentration camps. So they were kind of being forced into staying here, because if you leave, like the world outside will send you to a concentration camp. Like that's crazy people talk.
We see that right now in our own society, saying that they're going to round up anti-vaxxers and put them in concentration camps and stuff like that.
Basically, yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Keep them crazy.
Yeah, they were being kept from their family members, and they were told to tattle on each other for going against the rules and against like snitch on which they talk about that all the time in cults too. By 1977, so many members had started questioning things and defecting, that he decided to take several hundred followers to a compound in Guyana, because there were very little rules in Guyana. They didn't really care what you did there, and he named it after himself. He called it Jonestown. In November 1978, so it's been a year, and like Congressman Leo Ryan had been told of like, there's a lot of people there, and some of them want to be there and some of them don't, and a lot of their family members are worried about them, and we haven't heard from them. And so he decided he was going to put a spotlight on this and inspect the compound. And so he was told that several of their members wanted to leave and stuff, and so he decided to take his crew and go out there and check it out. And he was being slipped like letters and notes like, please help me, please get me out of here, type of stuff.
Yeah, I saw in a documentary that they said that as they walked around, everybody was putting on this we're
so happy,
and then suddenly somebody slipped a piece of paper into his hand.
Yes,
and that's whenever they were like,
so they were attacked before they could leave the compound, but they escaped unhurt. Like, but the members who were like, no, you can't leave, they started to attack them. So temple members actually followed them to the airstrip where they were trying to depart and board, and 5 people, including Ryan, were shot. Killed. and which is so sad because he was just trying to help these people.
Yeah.
And it's just
But you can't kill a political figure without
and expect nothing to happen.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy how like some of these cults, I feel like they had really great intentions at the beginning, and then it just went so wrong so quick.
I think that the members always have better intentions going into it, but when you have a madman like Jim Jones was,
yes,
it's just a matter of time before it all just snaps. And the visit of the congressman and his people.
So he kind of knew that it was coming to an end, and like in the wake of the shooting, Jim Jones released orders over the loudspeakers in Jonestown that they're going to start committing suicide. So I don't think you're supposed to say commit suicide. It's like completing suicide. I think that's what you're supposed to say. Either way.
Making yourself unalive.
They made a mixture of fruit juice and cyanide, and they started the process by injecting it into the mouths of babies and children. And then the adults started to drink it, and I said, Jim Jones, a fucking coward till the end, died from a gunshot wound.
Yeah, he had somebody else do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they were all writhing in pain and dying and probably second guessing everything they've ever been told. Their babies are dead. I
can't talk about seeing the footage with, like, I'm getting misty-eyed right now, without, whenever you see the footage from this where families are holding on to each other and babies are together with them, it's terrifying.
And when they see, like, when they have, like, you know, like, they've heard of what happened, and so these air flights are coming in, and they're recording, like,
the aerial shots.
Yeah, the aerial shots of just, they thought it was piles of clothing. They didn't really know what they were seeing.
It's just
that it was 900 people.
Yeah.
900 people.
That had to lay down their life for that man.
I want to say it's like the biggest mass suicide.
I think it is.
To date. Like,
to date,
that is a lot of people.
I don't want it topped because
only 100 people, like around 100, less than 100 people escaped.
It's heartbreaking. It's so heartbreaking.
Like, because you know, as soon as they they had to have known, like, after they like, what a mistake it was. Like, everyone is dying around you.
And have you ever heard the recordings of him giving his speech?
Yes.
While they're taking the poison and everything, you're hearing these cries of pain and sorrow and fear.
Yeah.
I mean, it almost sounds like a slaughterhouse.
And he's just like, don't cry. It's, you know,
don't cry. We're all going to be together.
We're all going to be together. This is what has to happen.
And he's just talking through the whole thing. And it's so ominous and
yeah, I'll give you goosebumps.
Evil and horrendous. I can't even imagine that men have these hearts, you know? We've seen it time and time again throughout history of how mass killings and genocide can happen. But this was all in the name of God.
That's it, and that's my, honestly, like, to go on a soapbox issue, like, that is my issue with religions in general, is that, like, it's just one dude really thinking he's right about everything. Like, there is no way.
And tricking a bunch of people into thinking that he knows.
That he knows what he's talking about.
That he's the answer.
I know enough to know no man in this world knows what they're talking about.
Like, we need to start a good cult, let's
just love each other and
let
gay people be gay and let straight people be straight. Like,
you want to leave? That's cool.
That's what I was thinking about. I was actually talking to my friend about it the other day because we were talking about this subject and the Heaven's Gate cult and everything with Marshall Applewhite. Like, had his family been okay with him being gay, none of it would have happened.
It would have been a completely different story. He could have been successful to use that charisma and just, you know, his
like,
ability to lead.
All of this really comes down to just love the people in your life and love them for who they are and be okay with how they are and how they want to live their lives.
Right.
Because otherwise, crap like this happens.
The answer to all of this is always love. And that's how they get you, is they
trick you into thinking
that they love you.
Yes.
When they don't. If they truly loved you, then they would nurture you. They would allow you to grow and to become individual people with individual dreams and ambitions. But these cult leaders, they just mold you into this thing thinking, well, you're special, but only I can see
nothing, so they can build you back up to be exactly what they want you to be.
They take away who you are and then build you into their perfect
And I'm
whatever,
not saying like we
follower.
shouldn't have like freedom of religion, like totally believe whatever you want, but please
Absolutely.
don't hurt anybody.
Absolutely.
No religion is worth hurting anybody.
No.
Like, just believe what you want. If you want to believe the UFOs are coming to take you when you die, sweet.
That's fine. But don't rush it either.
Don't rush into it.
I mean,
that's not how you get there.
No.
Live your life.
Yeah. That's why I thought whenever I was talking about Rael's movement, suicide is forbidden. Like, you don't take your own life. You go naturally. And
I mean, most religions do say that. Like, apparently you can't get into heaven or whatever if you complete suicide. But it's just crazy to me. Like, when you think of someone ending their life like that, you think that, like, most people in the world who are not a part of a cult, like, they're just so depressed they see no other way out and blah blah blah. These people are like promoting it like it's,
I've lost a few loved ones to it.
Same.
It affects all of us. It's horrible. It's something that none of us should have to go through. But in those instances, people like to say it's a very selfish thing, but it's not really, because they honestly believe the world is better without them, that your family's better without them. Yeah, it'll hurt for now, but they'll see.
I always think too, like, I always wonder how much the cult leaders actually buy into the shit that they're spewing. Like, how much do they really believe?
Do they repeat it so much that
do they really believe it, or are they just like so drunk on the power they just want to see what they can get these people to do? Like, give me all your money. Like,
it's sad. They prey on the weak.
You can only have sex with me just to see if they can get away with it, just to see if if it'll fly, and then it does, and so there's like, what's the next thing that I can get? Sign over your bank account, sign over your houses, like.
Well, yeah, it's a high for them. That's the power is the ultimate high.
It really is.
When you have all of these followers.
Yes, all of these followers. If it was just one dude, like, if one person would have come up to you and be like, hey, you want to like end your life and sign over your bank account, you'd say like, no, absolutely not.
Right.
But it's like this mass following where it's like, not that they're sheep, but it's like they're just like,
and a lot of times they take time to cultivate it too. Yes. Cultivate a relationship in which, again, you're special, but only I know, and you need to follow me,
and your family doesn't understand,
and your family will never understand. So
I mean, talk to a lot of these cults, like, they were like married, happy people with children that are like leaving their families. In the Heaven's Gate cult, I saw this woman was being interviewed like way back in the day. Her parents, both of her parents, left her. She was like 9 or 10 years old, left her with grandparents to go to this cult, and they were there for years, and then kind of became disillusioned and left it, came back to her, and then after about a year or two, left her again to go back to the cult. And she's just like, and then they ended up dying. And she's like,
yeah.
I don't see how you can leave your children like, hey, I gotta go join this cult. Like, so sorry.
Right. Yeah. I guess that's
why.
I
worry about my kids when they go to school. I can't imagine like leaving them for forever and being like, oh, well, bye. I gotta go.
That's why we find them so fascinating, because the normal state, well, I don't want to say normal, because what's normal? But the stable, emotionally sound, spiritually sound, they have a sense of who they are, what they're going to be, and what they're going to become. But they just go out and find these people who are damaged, and they're looking for the answers, and so all they just make the promises and the promises and the promises, and then eventually you either leave unfulfilled or you end up laying down your life. Or
I'm just too jaded for a cult.
I think
I don't believe in anything anyone says.
I know
years of online dating has taught me that. Like,
right, we discussed that before.
You're not 5'8", you liar.
Right. Yeah, I don't trust anything anyone says.
Exactly. But yeah, this was a really heavy episode.
It was a heavy episode
for a comedy podcast. This was
It's hard to come up with jokes.
It really is hard to come up with jokes when you're talking about people laying down their lives for
crazy men.
For crazy men.
For crazy. And ladies too. There's ladies that get involved in all that stuff.
There's lady cults also. It's just
because look at Nexium and all of that, where they pulled the females into it. And it's nuts.
We could talk about cults for maybe like every few months.
We'll revisit this, because
we're gonna revisit this episode. This topic for sure.
Absolutely, because even finding some of these smaller obscure ones have been fun.
It's pretty interesting
to read what you can talk people into. I need to work on my skills, I guess.
I can't get
I'm-
my kid to clean up his laundry.
I'm just,
like, how
I
do you,
think I'm a bad liar too.
I mean, I'm a good liar, but not.
I don't, I would be like, yeah, we're
I
gonna
don't take
go,
it to that
we're
level.
gonna go on a space ride.
Just I'm lying. Tattle on yourself.
Did I say space ride? I meant we're going to a roller coaster. Yay!
Yeah, it's insane.
And then we all end up at the park and we don't die.
And we don't die. And then we go home and it's like, ah, man, I'm going to start a cult today. What happened?
Damn.
We went to Six Flags instead.
Damn. See, if these people had just gone to Six Flags, really thought it through first.
Just think about it. Yeah. So,
Oh.
yeah, just, you guys, don't join a cult.
Don't join a cult. Hey, and you know what? I don't care who you are, if you're listening to us or watching us on YouTube, you can always get in touch with either one of us. We have an email address that you can certainly
Yes.
write into us if you just want.
You are
We'll
loved.
keep it
You
confidential.
matter.
Yeah. We'll keep it confidential.
Yeah.
We just we know you're special, and the world knows you're special. It's so you don't need to follow
No.
us
It's
unless
no secret. We're all rad. Like,
Yeah.
we're all cool.
yeah.
We don't need to join a cult.
Although we would appreciate if you guys would follow us on YouTube.
Follow, like, subscribe.
Follow, like, subscribe. We are now available on Apple Podcasts. Woot woot! You can also find us on Google Podcasts. You can find us on Spotify. And if you want to find us on Anchor, you can find links to all of those pages and pick your poison however you want to listen
However you
or
wanna
watch
do it,
us.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we would love to start hearing from some of you guys.
Yeah, just, shoot us
Just let us know you're okay.
let us know you're all right.
You know, you-
take care of each other. We love you guys.
Yeah, leave a comment if you want to.
Yeah, be kind.
You can tweet at us. We've got all of that information available up on our YouTube page, and I think that you can find it in our profiles on our podcasting pages as well.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
just look for us and don't join a cult.
And keep
That's-
listening, and we
Keep
love
listening.
you guys. And
Subscribe.
Yeah.
Hit the notification bells and all of that stuff, so that way you don't miss anything. And we'll see you next time, I guess.
We'll catch you next time. Yeah. Bye, you guys. Love you.
Love you. Be
Be
safe.
safe.
Let me call you sweetheart.